When we think about religion in Finland, Islam might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but the story of Islam in Finland is deeper and more fascinating than many people realize. Before the 19th century, there was no significant Muslim population in Finland, but that doesn't mean there was no contact at all. In fact, traces of early interaction go back to ancient trade routes. Through the travels of the Vikings and the trade networks of Eastern Europe, Finnish lands had indirect contact with Islamic civilizations, especially those in the Volga region, where Islam had a strong presence. These encounters, though rare and scattered, planted the earliest seeds of awareness. But it wasn't until the late 1800s, during the time when Finland was still part of the Russian Empire, that Islam truly began to take root. This happened through the arrival of the Tatars, a Turkic-speaking Muslim community from the Volga-Ural region of Russia. Many of them came as soldiers serving in the Russian army, while others arrived as traders. Over time, they chose to settle in Finland permanently. What makes the Tatar community especially remarkable is how they managed to preserve their language, culture, and Sunni Islamic faith, all while peacefully integrating into Finnish society. They didn't isolate themselves, nor did they abandon their identity. They found a balance between being proudly Muslim and being active members of Finnish life. In 1925, a major milestone was reached when the Tatar community established the Islamic Congregation of Finland, or Suomen Islam Seurakunta, in Helsinki. This wasn't just any congregation. It was the first official Islamic congregation in all of Western Europe to be formally recognized by the state. That speaks volumes about both the community's organization and Finland's openness to religious diversity, even back then. Fast forward to the 1990s, and we see a new chapter unfold. This period marked a wave of immigration that brought Muslims to Finland from across the globe. People arrived from Somalia, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Kosovo, Bosnia, North Africa, and South Asia. Some came seeking refuge from conflict. Others came to study or work. This wave didn't just increase the numbers. It introduced diversity in Islamic practices, with communities now representing Sunni, Shia, Sufi, and Ahmadiyya traditions. Today, the Muslim population in Finland is estimated to be between 20,000 and 25,000 people, making up about 0.5% of the total population. While that might seem small, their presence is vibrant and growing. Across cities like Helsinki, Turku, and Tampere, you'll find mosques, prayer rooms, Islamic schools, youth organizations, and cultural centers. The community is engaged, active, and deeply rooted in Finnish life. Islam is legally recognized in Finland, which means Muslims have the freedom to practice their faith. Of course, like in many parts of the world, there are challenges, especially when it comes to integration and the reality of Islamophobia. But what stands out is the example of the Tatar Muslims, who are often seen as a model of how Islam and Finnish identity can coexist peacefully, respectfully, and successfully. The story of Islam in Finland isn't just about migration or religious practice. It's about identity, coexistence, and the evolution of a community that continues to grow, contribute, and thrive in the heart of the North. When we talk about the Muslim population in Finland, one of the first things to understand is that determining an exact number isn't as straightforward as it might seem. That's because the way data is collected varies depending on the source, and not all Muslims in Finland are officially registered with religious communities. So there's a gap between the official numbers and the actual size of the population. According to Statistics Finland, as of 2023, there were around 24,100 individuals who were officially registered as members of Muslim religious communities. These are people who belong to recognized Islamic congregations, such as the historic Tatar-founded Islamic Congregation of Finland, or other newer associations formed by immigrants in different parts of the country. But this number only tells part of the story. In reality, many Muslims living in Finland, especially recent immigrants, refugees, or those who simply choose not to affiliate with any official religious group, are not counted in those statistics. That's why religious leaders and other community representatives often give a very different estimate. For example, in 2022, Muslim religious leaders in Finland estimated that the actual Muslim population might be closer to 120,000 people. Other sources place the estimate somewhere between 50,000 and 60,000. So, as you can see, the range is wide, and it reflects the complexity of counting a population that is diverse, mobile, and not always officially registered. Now, let's talk about religious affiliations within the Muslim community in Finland. Like in many other parts of the world, Islam in Finland isn't a monolith. There are different schools of thought, cultural backgrounds, and religious traditions represented here. According to surveys and estimates, about 75 to 80% of Muslims in Finland identify as Sunni Muslims. These include people from countries like Somalia, Iraq, Turkey, and many others. On the other hand, around 20 to 25% are Shia Muslims, with roots often in countries like Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan. These figures help us appreciate the rich diversity within the Muslim community in Finland. It's not just about numbers, it's about people with different languages, histories, and religious practices, all contributing to Finnish society in their own way. And this diversity also presents challenges when it comes to understanding the community's needs, providing proper services, and ensuring that every voice is heard. The fact that even basic population numbers are hard to pin down highlights the importance of inclusive and accurate data collection, not just for research, but for policies, education, healthcare, and overall social planning. Because when we understand who makes up our society, we're better equipped to support and include everyone. When it comes to understanding what everyday life looks like for Muslims in Finland, it's important to start with where most of them live. Unsurprisingly, the majority of Finland's Muslim population is concentrated in urban areas, places where there are more job opportunities, community networks, and services that support both practical needs and religious life. The capital region, which includes Helsinki, Espoo, and Vantaa, has the largest Muslim communities in the country. In these cities, you'll find mosques, Islamic centers, halal grocery stores, and access to community events and support networks. Turku, a historic port city, also has a growing Muslim presence, while cities like Tampere, Oulu, Lahti, and Jyväskylä are home to smaller but active Muslim populations. These communities often rely on local Islamic associations to create a sense of togetherness, especially in cities that don't yet have large, purpose-built mosques. Now, what do daily routines look like for Muslims in Finland? Just like anywhere else, their days revolve around work, school, family, and faith. Religious practice remains a vital part of daily life. Muslims perform the 5 daily prayers, often at home or in nearby mosques if available. In workplaces or universities, some use small, designated prayer spaces. Fridays are especially meaningful. Jumu'ah prayer, or Friday congregation, is widely attended, particularly in cities like Helsinki and Turku, where community life is more structured. During Ramadan, the entire rhythm of the day changes, fasting from sunrise to sunset, gathering with friends and family for iftar, and attending Taraweeh prayers at night. The Eid celebrations that follow are community-wide events held in public parks or Islamic centers, full of food, joy, and prayer. When it comes to work and education, Muslims in Finland are active across many sectors. You'll find them working as nurses, caregivers, bus and train drivers, IT specialists, and small business owners, especially in halal food shops and restaurants. Muslim youth are also increasingly visible in universities and polytechnics. Cities like Helsinki, Turku, and Tampere are home to top institutions where many young Muslims are pursuing degrees in everything from engineering to healthcare to social sciences. Community life plays a big role too. Islamic centers are more than places of worship. They're hubs for education, social support, and cultural exchange. Parents bring their children to weekend Quran classes. Couples attend marriage counseling, and many centers host Arabic language programs or interfaith events that build bridges with the wider Finnish society. And let's not forget the youth scene. Muslim youth organizations across the country host sports clubs, Quran competitions, and seminars on topics like identity, integration, and career development. Summer camps are particularly popular, offering a mix of faith-based learning and outdoor fun. More and more young Muslim women wearing the hijab are confidently taking their place in Finnish schools, on university campuses, and even in public life, from media appearances to civic engagement. Of course, life isn't without its challenges. Navigating between Finnish secular culture and Islamic traditions can be complex, especially for second-generation Muslims. Issues like Islamophobia, job discrimination, and the lack of prayer spaces in smaller towns still exist. But what stands out is how resilient and proactive the community is. Muslims in Finland are becoming more involved in public discussions, politics, social work, and education, building a future that is both proudly Finnish and proudly Muslim. Every day, they're shaping what it means to be a part of Finland's diverse and evolving identity, contributing, connecting, and continuing to grow. While Muslims in Finland enjoy religious freedom under the law and have successfully built communities in various cities, their everyday lives aren't without challenges. In fact, many Muslims face a range of social, cultural, and systemic difficulties that often go unseen by the broader public. One of the most persistent problems is Islamophobia. Verbal abuse, online hate speech, and stereotyping are issues that many Muslims deal with, especially those who are visibly identifiable by their faith. Women who wear the hijab often bear the brunt of this discrimination, as do people with Arabic names or traditional dress. There have been cases of far-right groups targeting Muslim communities and even attacks on places of worship. For example, in 2020, a mosque in the Helsinki region was defaced with hate graffiti, a painful reminder that prejudice still exists, even in a country known for tolerance and equality. Employment discrimination is another major issue. Many Muslims, particularly immigrants, struggle to find fair opportunities in the job market. People are sometimes rejected simply because of a foreign-sounding name or a headscarf. And even when they do get jobs, it's often not in line with their qualifications. Highly educated individuals can find themselves working in low-paying or unrelated fields, simply because of unconscious bias or lack of diversity in hiring. Studies show that unemployment rates are particularly high among Muslims from Somali backgrounds, much higher than the national average. Then there's the issue of mosque infrastructure. Despite a growing population, Finland still has very few purpose-built mosques. Most Muslim communities rely on rented spaces, apartments, basements, or small halls to gather and pray. Attempts to construct larger mosques have often faced public backlash. One notable example came in 2017, when a proposal to build a grand mosque in Helsinki sparked a heated national debate. The project was eventually scrapped, not because of lack of support within the Muslim community, but due to widespread public opposition. Muslim women face their own unique challenges. Beyond the harassment or stares they may encounter in public, many struggle to find workplaces that accept the hijab. And what's especially difficult is that even Muslim women born and raised in Finland often feel they have to go out of their way to prove they belong, to prove they're Finnish enough. It's a heavy burden to carry. Young Muslims in Finland are also navigating a complicated identity landscape. Many of them feel torn between Finnish secular values and Islamic teachings, unsure of how to fully embrace either side. In school, they may feel excluded or misunderstood, and some face bullying or peer pressure. While many find comfort and strength in online communities, there's also the risk of stumbling into radical content or harmful echo chambers while searching for a sense of belonging. Another problem lies in how Muslims are portrayed in the media. Too often, mainstream news coverage focuses on negative associations, linking Islam with terrorism, extremism, or conflict. Positive stories about Muslim contributions to Finnish society are rarely highlighted, which only reinforces stereotypes and deepens the gap between communities. Even in areas like healthcare, there are gaps in understanding. For elderly Muslims or recent immigrants, language barriers can make accessing medical services incredibly difficult. There's also a shortage of culturally sensitive care. For example, not enough female doctors for Muslim women who prefer them, limited access to halal food in hospitals or care homes, and very few mental health services that understand or incorporate Islamic perspectives. There are legal and bureaucratic issues too. For instance, Islamic marriages or divorces are not always recognized by Finnish authorities, leading to confusion or legal complications. And when it comes to burial services, not all cemeteries in Finland offer designated sections for Muslims, making it hard for families to arrange proper funerals in line with Islamic customs. But despite all these challenges, there's a lot of hope. The Muslim community in Finland is resilient, diverse, and increasingly visible. More and more Muslims are stepping into roles in education, politics, and civic life. They're opening interfaith dialogue platforms, creating support networks for women and youth, and becoming active participants in shaping Finnish society. What's clear is that Muslims in Finland aren't just adapting, they're contributing, advocating, and helping build a more inclusive future for everyone. So that was a closer look at the history, presence, and everyday life of Muslims in Finland, from the early arrival of the Tatar community to the diverse and growing Muslim population we see today. While there are still challenges to overcome, the story of Islam in Finland is one of resilience, faith, and meaningful contribution to society. If you found this video informative and you'd like to learn more about different cultures, religions, and communities around the world, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It really helps support the content and ensures you don't miss any future videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.